So hi guys, we'll go live in about a minute. Mohit is here and we will go live in a minute. And if you have any questions, continue to ask me. Yes, Amisha, please ask me more questions. Hi Rajesh, hi Naresh. We'll wait for one more minute and then we'll start. Wonderful. Now we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, and request you all to keep asking questions as and when you feel like, and I'll keep watching it. If there is anything important that I think it needs to be addressed, I will address it on the go. Else, we will try and address as many as possible, as many questions as possible in the end. Wonderful, guys. So we'll wait for 30 more seconds, and if you're live, please say hi. I would like to understand how many of you have joined. Hi, Rakesh. There are a lot of Rajesh, Naresh, Rakesh, many Ish today. Wonderful. So, hi, guys. So, today we are here in Hindi. No, today it's going to be in English. We'll try and talk in Hindi also with us. So, we are going to today, it's an interesting day because this is one day after budget. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about the budgets, what has happened. A lot of people are already speaking about it. So instead of talking too much about the budget, we thought we'll also talk about the impact that it can have on your investments. So we have, you know me, I've been coming on Creator for some time now. And today we have Mohit Bagdi, who is a partner for Augment Capital. He's my partner. He recently joined us. And this entire set of narration and the presentation has been made by him. So I welcome Mohit today. He's a qualified chartered accountant, also a CFA level candidate. He was with DNY and in the especially known in the M&A space and the consulting space. And today he will get us through the important topics on budget, and we will try and decipher it on how it will affect your investments. Mohit, over to you.
Thank you, Anand, for that introduction. Good evening, everyone. So I'll just set the agenda for the call. So I've just broken this call into three sessions. First being the knowledge part of it as to what are the key statistics, what are the key announcements which have been made, and a few interesting announcements which were out of the way, which have been brought up by the finance minister. The second part of the session is with respect to how those specific announcements will impact the market and how the impact should be on your investments too. So there are 5 topics where we want to catch up on as to how will it impact going forward. And the third part is with respect to the Q&A which you want to have. So going on to the first part of it, which is the knowledge section of it, bringing out a few key statistics. So the finance minister mentioned that it's a 6.4 fiscal deficit for FY23. Now, fiscal deficit is basically when the government starts spending more than the receipts with going to have. Now, this is 6.4 is higher, and in previous year of FY22, it was estimated as 6.9. Because of the pandemic, it has been like the government has to spend a lot towards boosting the economy. But the finance minister has also mentioned that going forward in FY26, that fiscal deficit will come down to 4.5%. So that gives a good estimate in terms of the fiscal deficit going down, and it is very important that it should be on a reduced level going forward. However, if it is higher right now, it's okay because it's important to boost the economy as of now. So it's like more infusion of capital by the government. Second thing is with respect to the GDP growth, which the finance minister mentioned that it's 9.2, which is highest amongst most of the economies right now. This is especially coming after a 7.3% decline, which has happened in 2020. And the estimated GDP growth, which we see next year, is something around 8.5%, which is a substantial real GDP growth, which are estimating going forward.
So all of you viewers and listeners, I want you to focus on this GDP number, 9.2 or 8 to 8 or 8.5, because It's an important matrix, and I would be talking to you about how this will translate to better investment returns maybe towards the end of the session. Sorry, Mohit. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So few of the key announcements which have been made. Now, the finance minister started the discussion, the meeting with the vision on Amrit Kal. Now, this is a big vision which the finance minister has put out from India at 75 till India at 100. So it's a very macro level economics, which in terms of the finance minister had mentioned and laid down in the parliament yesterday. Now, this is something which we'll take forward in the subsequent section. So this is something which is very key to think upon. Second thing was with respect to the defense. Now, defense is a very big segment in the entire budget scheme, which is a 5.5 lakh crore kind of a defense budget which India has currently. Now, the finance minister has increased from FY22 at a 58% defense capital to 68%, and it has been earmarked to the local industry. So the domestic will definitely get a booster out of it, and it is along with the vision of Prime Minister with respect to Atmanirbhar Bharat. So that is a very important news which came up. Second thing was with respect to the blended fund, capital fund, which the government wants to create with respect to the agriculture and the rural startups, where NABARD will be investing to the extent of 20%. Now that is a significant news in terms of boosting the startup culture, into at least in the agriculture and the rural setups as of now. The third thing with respect to is the financial inclusion, which is the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, where they have tried to deepen the financial inclusion part. Now they have also mentioned that they'll include the 1.5 lakh post offices at 100% level into the core banking system. Now this goes saying that it will deepen the banking system further enough for the rural economy to be part of the system. Third thing with respect was the emergency credit line guarantee scheme, which was there at 4.5 lakhs until FY22. They have extended for FY23 and increased the cap of 4.5 lakhs by 50,000 crore, which is earmarked for the hospitality sector, which was the sector which had a huge brunt during this pandemic, where the tourism industry was significantly down. Now, this gives a booster in terms of the government trying to help the MSME sector to revive it during the period. Third thing, the next thing was with respect to the housing sector. Now, under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, they want to create furthermore 80 lakh houses by FY23 and allocating a fund of 48,000 crore, which will just boost up the housing sector going forward and providing affordable housing to the weaker section of the society. The last part was with respect to the 5G spectrum. The auction is expected in FY22, in the CY22. Now, this is something very important coming after 4G, and they have tried to include the ecosystem of 5G into the PLI sector, which will boost the R&D process with respect to the 5G coming forward. Now, these were the key announcements. Now, a few interesting announcements which were out of the way, which the government came up with, especially with respect to the cryptocurrency. Now, it has recognized the currency, and they have built a few taxation around it. This is something which we want to cover in terms of how will it impact the investor in terms of allocation towards cryptocurrency. Next thing was in the introduction of the digital rupee. Now, this is a new thing which has come up with respect to the blockchain currency, which the government wants to bring in. Now, this is important in understanding that in spite of being a legal tender, is there any kind of a tradability going to happen in this thing? And with respect to the cashless system, which the country wants to go into, this will definitely deepen it much more forward. The next thing was with respect to no changes shown in the individual and the corporate taxation. This is also something which we want to cover in the next segment, where we'll speak as to how does it impact the middle class and the lower class. Next interesting thing was with respect to the 400 new generation Vande Bharat trains. Currently, we have just 2 trains as of now, having a Delhi to Varanasi and Delhi to Kashmir kind of route right now. But these being low-cost trains and having a good efficiency, this will boost the railway network going forward. Now, this was a very interesting thing which came across with respect to 60,000 crores being allocated for tap water for 3.8 crore households. I just happened to watch another video 2 days back with respect to how does it impact the rural economy. Now, when we have a rich versus poor divide, we usually see that a lot of tankers go to these lower sections. Now, this is an expensive mode of having a tap water, means having a water access. Now, with this allocation, this will at least help the savings in the lower segment, in the lower economies, basically. So this is an interesting point which the government came up with. Next thing was with respect to the green revolution, which they want to invest and continue investing for a renewable energy kind of a thing. So have they come up with the sovereign green bonds, which will just boost those specific segments. The next two things are very interesting and are intangible as of now with respect to the national digital health ecosystem, where they want to create a facility wherein you get access to the healthcare facilities, the healthcare providers, so that it helps someone to access those specific facilities which is not available for at least the middle class and the lower segment of the society. And the last thing was with respect to the mental health program. They are creating this national tele system wherein post-pandemic, where people have been severely impacted, or at least on the mental level. Now they are providing this counseling sessions, which definitely needs to be seen that how they're going to execute it. But it's an important step which the government has taken as of now. So those were the interesting and those key announcements which they have made as of now. Going forward to the next segment, the first thing which we want to take up is with respect to the market reactions. So pre-budget, we saw 1.5% gain in the markets, and post-budget also, the day ended at a 1.5% gain. And today also it showed a positive sign of 1.2%. Now, definitely there has to be some kind of optimism which has been shown in the markets. So this is something which I would want to ask Anand as to how does it foresee this thing in terms of pre-budget optimism shown and post-budget. What is it do you take out from the budget in terms of the market?
Yeah, so wonderful that you pasted the 5-day chart, Mohit, but I think we should concentrate more on, so we can clearly see that the budget rally has been good post-budget, but let's see the next chart, right? Let's see a 1-year chart as to how the markets have generally behaved. If you see in the longer run, the markets are slaves of growth or slaves of earning, right? There are events like budgets, there are events like elections that will keep happening, but then the markets tend to follow the long-term earnings. And that's what I want you all to concentrate on. So don't look at these 5-7 years movement, look at 1-year movement. And if you look at that, I think the highs that we saw, which was around October period last year, is yet to be broken and breached. Even though we tried to breach it around in January, it has not happened. So I think India has a long way to go. This budget, though, is a wonderful budget, in my opinion, when it comes to expenditure management. So I hope really that this translates to higher levels for the markets and for the investors.
No, definitely. The markets have actually reacted very positively in terms of what kind of reforms the government wanted to put forward also. Now, in terms of being a populist budget or a reformist budget, which people were very skeptical about where it will go with respect to the elections coming in. Now, the government has tried to put on a budget which is kind of a non-populist budget. And I guess the corporate India has specifically will benefit out of it, and the markets have reacted in terms of going forward earnings, whatever happens. So definitely that is the reason I would suspect that we have seen such positive signs in the market.
Yeah, so let's concentrate again more on long-term trajectory.
Yeah.
So maybe the next slide would be good.
Now, next is a very interesting topic, and I guess a lot of millennials at least would be very happy to understand. So there's a positive news coming out of the cryptocurrency thing, and a very negative news also. But it depends as to how do you want to look at it right now. So the negative news which came out was a flat taxation of 30% with no deduction and set off of losses with any other income. Now, this is as good as treating this specific asset as in terms of gambling, where there's another 30% taxation. So it's like government telling that with cryptocurrency, you're not doing an asset class allocation, but it is as good as you doing a gambling. So that is a negative aspect I could see from the cryptocurrency news which came out. However, the good news in terms of a lot of investors who are already invested and who wants to invest going forward, and we keep on hearing from people that is it an asset class to get into? So finally, the recognition has come from the government. However, the crypto bill is yet to come out. But in a way, they have given this recognition through this virtual digital asset taxation kind of a thing. Now, one question which I would want to ask Anand is with respect to how do you see it in terms of the investor mindset? What should be the allocation of crypto, whether they should have an allocation of crypto or not? And also considering the which has come in, does it seem suitable for investors to get into this asset class?
So famously today, the PMO came out and said that it is still legal. Okay, but I think they will try and, once the crypto bill is out, they will try and legalize the public blockchain cryptos and not private blockchain crypto. So one has to be very careful of investing in the right crypto. Having said that, I love quoting Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. He said cryptocurrency will go to zero. That is maybe that is something that we need to keep and be cognizant of. Even after this, if you still want to invest, I think about 5% maximum can get into an asset, because if there is a view, right? There was a view that crypto will be a tender, legal tender, which I don't think is yet recognized. Yes, it is recognized as an asset, but it's not recognized as a legal tender, which I don't think any company or a country will do. So that one has to be cognizant of that fact. So I will still go ahead and invest, but may not be more than 2, 3, or maximum 5%, depending on the kind of risk that I want to take. Anything that goes up 200, 300 times can also come down by 50, 70% in a matter of time. So be very, very clear about the volatilities, and play very, very high risk money only in crypto, right? That's my only suggestion. And the fact that today there are no deductions allowed, there are no set of losses allowed, maybe this is a net negative for investors who are going big on crypto.
That's right. And you quoting Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, he also happened to mention that it's not important to be part of every party. So he actually quoted this for Zomato when it got listed, and he also quoted this for cryptocurrency. So it depends on the risk appetite, I guess, the investors would have with respect to having this allocation in their portfolio. So yeah, rightly said, Anand.
Thanks.
I'll move on to the next point. The next thing was with respect to the GST collections. Now, the finance minister mentioned that Jan 22 was a record GST collection, which has been made of 1.4 lakh crores, which represents a 40% growth in terms of the pre-pandemic period of 1920. And this also coming in spite of having a partial economic revival. So we just saw December month and the month of January being impacted due to Omicron. And a lot of lockdowns have happened. There have been shut off a lot of segments and sectors. So in spite of having those specific scenarios, the GST collections has been remarkable. Now, just wanted to understand from you, Anand, as to how do you see it in terms of, in spite of having a partial economic revival, how do we see this statistic and 2022, 2023? What kind of outlook do you have in terms of growth which we are going to see?
Yeah, so I think this is the real scene. This is the real picture of India. If you see a lot of on-ground activity, I don't think it has come as a surprise to a lot of people, because on-ground activity has always been good, whether there was a lockdown or no. Post-lockdown, essentially after the first lockdown, things have not been as badly affected even during the second lockdown, except the healthcare, or especially those people who have been badly affected in few cities, right? So this 1.4 lakh crore, I think very soon we'll touch the record GST collection. We'll keep beating this record GST collection. The government is targeting 1.5 lakh crore, which is, I think, going to happen pretty soon. And I translate this, the reason for this, into the on-ground activity. Whether it is you traveling, whether it is me traveling, I saw those industrial activity picking up, IIP numbers picking up, inflation getting under control. So these are things which point out to steady revival. And one thing which this can lead to is better revenue that can help you to contain the fiscal deficit number that you pointed out first. So on-ground activity is great, which will translate to good earnings, and hopefully also translate to tax buoyancy for the government, thereby leading to better financial management, is what I'm really hoping for. This is a good growth indicator in my opinion.
Got it. And anything specific on the sectorals where you see that there's going to be growth in terms of the last 2 years being a very mild kind of a growth happening for few sectors? How do you see it going forward in 22, 23? Which sectors do you think would have a chance to beat the other sectors in terms of growth and earnings?
Thanks, Mohit. One thing which I'm very clear, which I'm very certain, I can't give you a guarantee though, is banking, right? That sector has been very badly thrashed in the last 3 years. This was pre-pandemic itself. Things were not looking so great. The economy was slowing down, and then the credit offtake was slowing down. And at one point in time, we had personal loans or personal offtake being higher than corporate offtake. I think those days are now gone. We will definitely see better credit offtake with the sign that you already saw in December. SBI and HDFC Bank coming and raising their interest rates by 10 basis points is a sign that credit offtake is expected to be good going forward. So that is one segment that one can look forward to. And the recent correction in IT is a good pointer that high valued assets can always come down. But then with a lot of focus on digital transformation in India across the globe, I think IT also looks solid. And finally, consumption. See, the issue with the lockdowns is all these touch point based sectors where you have to go and really physically be present, whether it is schools or canteens or theaters or malls. Those were very badly affected. I think with Omicron out of the way, and hopefully this may be the last of the waves that we see, I think consumption as a sector should boom. So these are the three sectors, in my opinion, for investing, which are looking good on the valuation side.
Got it. Also, I happen to see the results of the banking, which you mentioned in terms of Bajaj Finance numbers, IndusInd Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank. They have shown those specific positive signs in terms of the disbursement growth also happening. So basically, a lot of these banks having that credit cycle going on as of now, which were impacted severely during those pandemic times, the first and the second wave. With respect to the disbursement, that is also growing, and also with respect to the NPA provisions, which were high during those previous years, now it has cooled off significantly. Now the earnings are also getting better for the banking sector. So that's a valid point, having mentioned that the banking might have a good cycle coming forward. And also with respect to the bank Nifty also, how has it performed in the last 2 years? But definitely with respect to compared to other segments, definitely we see a good sign also coming out from the bank Nifty.
Yeah.
The next point with respect to the direct taxes. Now, I'm sure the middle class and the lower class would have been disappointed with the fact that there has been no changes in the slab and the tax rates. And people also asking me whether this budget is actually not favorable for me. So how do you answer these questions in terms of whether there's any significant change in the tax rates or the slabs, the government are trying to cool it off or harshen it with respect to the LTCG, which was round the corners that there might be an increase in the LTCG rates also. But with respect to at least the individual income tax, how do you see that when there is no change which has been brought up this year?
So LTCG, wealth tax, these kind of rumors. I mean, I've seen budgets closely for 18 years now, and I've heard about this every 18 years, right? Every time there's a budget, there's always a rumor of some tax cuts or some tax increase and wealth tax coming and all that stuff. So now that the 2022 budget is a reality, and yes, a lot of people, in fact, in the morning, somebody said, मेरे हाथ पे तो कम पैसा आएगा और उतना ही पैसा रहेगा. I mean, the only thing is, I asked him is, while yes, you're still going to pay the same percentage of taxes, did your income go up more than what you expected? And he said yes. So what I'm trying to say is that this, in general, right, non-tax incentives have a larger positive impact than small tweaks in tax rates. If you see in the past also, if the government is doing few things correctly, and I don't want to be sounding like a pro BJP government guy or a pro Congress government guy. All I'm trying to say is that if the government spends the money that they're collecting from you in the right way, whether it's better infrastructure, whether it's better education or healthcare or digitization, whatever it is, right? The impact that it will have on your pockets is larger than just having that small 2-3% saving that you will see from personal tax cut. So I think we should move away from it. Already India is paying decent, our tax rates are decent enough. I don't think it should increase, hopefully.
That is
but, I don't think we should worry too much about tax rate not being cut. I think it's absolutely fine to do it.
Correct. And I guess the finance minister has been pretty vocal about mentioning that it has to be a welfare kind of budget where it is important that we treat the lower sections and getting those subsidies or those benefits to the rural segment, because if the earnings of them get better and better, that is when the infrastructure will help us, and the impact of these things can be looked upon not from a income tax point of view, at least from a savings point of view going forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for that's what I'm saying, right? Indirect taxes are better. Hey guys, if you're one announcement, keep following me. Can you just, if you can see the follow button, I think you should just click that follow button so that you will be reminded every time I'm going live. Yes, Mohit. Next question.
Yeah. So the last point was with respect to the Amrit Kal, which actually the finance minister mentioned at the start, that she has a vision through the government eyes that it's like India from 75 to 100. So it's a 25-year plan with a very focus on the welfare schemes and trying to develop the infrastructure. So her focus was with respect to the digital economy, helping the fintechs, boosting the private investment through the public investments, technology-enabled developments, energy transition and climate action, which has been a core focus area for the government. Having said that, with respect to a 25-year plan, which is very far from now, but how do you see India growing from here in next 8 to 10 years? How do you see the economy growing up? And what are kind of numbers do you think where India will lead up in considering today, which we have a 3 trillion economy? How do you see going forward from 8 to 10 years from now?
Oh, this is my favorite topic. Yeah, 10 trillion is a number that I think I've mentioned every time I've gone live or to anybody that I've spoken to. How many people want to really know? Yeah, I think I want at least 5-7 emojis to figure out how many people are really want to know how to increase your returns in the next 10 years. How many people want to have maybe 4 to 5 times your capital in the next 10 years or so? Great. So I'm seeing a lot of emojis. Thank you so much for that. And please click the follow button. Let me share some views, right? The thing is, I remember I told you to concentrate on, Mohit, are you there? Okay, I don't know where he's gone. So remember I told you to concentrate on one number, the GDP number that Mohit was projecting on the screen in the first, on the first or the second slide, which was about 9.2, and then the future was looking at 8.5, right? So this is an important number because it tells you what the government expects India itself to grow at. That is GDP, right? In simplest terms, it means that India will grow its GDP every year by 9% and add GDP, add inflation to it. So the number that is mentioned is called real GDP, but India will grow at the rate of real GDP plus inflation. I'll show you a calculation. I'll do the live maths for you to understand what I'm trying to say. Now, Sriram, yes, 5x return in 5 years. Of course, 5x return in 5 years is absolutely a number that I would love to have. But it's extremely difficult. So I'm just trying to open an Excel sheet to show you some important number as to how you can make 4 to 5x return even without doing a lot of things correctly in the market, I'm saying. Right? Okay, let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see my Excel sheet?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, all of you, others? Can you guys see my Excel sheet? Yeah. Okay.
Guys, you can send a yes comment if you can see the screen.
I don't know whether they're able to see it. Or an emoji is also fine. Okay, got it. So wonderful. So we are in the year 2022. The real GDP number that is projected by the government for the next few years is, let's say, 8.5%. I'm not even calculating the 9.25% number projected. Okay.
Anand, do you want to zoom the screen a bit? Yeah.
Okay. And the inflation number is, let's say, 5%. This can be played around with. This is my calculation. So nominal GDP is expected. Nominal GDP, therefore, will become this plus this, right? So you're expected, the country is expected, the country with so many states, so many heads, so many thought leaders, so many politicians, so many people talking about growth, going to grow at 13.5%. Okay. Now let me tell you about let's say there are so many companies that are good, right? And what is difficult to manage, a nation or a country? I know I mean, while I know the answer, while you can continue to get those numbers. So what I'm saying is that a nation is a lot more difficult to grow than a company, which is, let's say, a Reliance or a Bajaj or a Tata or a Birla. So my expectation is that even if I increase or grow this by an additional 3%, just 3% over the nominal GDP number, my growth rate is expected to be 16.5%. Did you understand? So all I'm trying to say is that if a nation like India, $2.8 trillion country, grows at 13.5%, what stops from a Reliance or a Tata or a Birla to grow at 16.5%, or a very small company to grow at larger than that also? Okay. So this is your growth rate, the company or the market's growth rate. So where is Sensex today? Sensex today is, let's say, 60,000, right? And this is our vision for 2032, which is 10 years, from now. So our country today, the GDP of our country is $2.8 trillion or $2.9 trillion. In my opinion, this $2.9 trillion will grow at a rate of 13.5% for the next 10 years. This should lead to a number of 10 trillion, let's say. I'm just rounding it off to 10 trillion. Did you get this point correctly? I mean, till now? I mean, you can use an emoji, please, to understand if you got the concept correct. No? Okay, got it. Yes.
Yes.
Now this real GDP number of 2.8 or 2.9, let's say it is 2.8, touches $10 trillion at the end of 2032, which is 10 years from now. Okay, this is your India. Let's say now we come to Sensex. Sensex is at, as I said, 60,000 rupees, 60,000, and a group of companies grow at 16.5%, right? So 60,000 into the growth rate of the constituents, power, compounding in play, guys, power 10 should lead this number to 2,76,000. Okay, now you may say that, oh, that's impossible. Was even 50,000 was impossible some time back. Even 30,000 was impossible some time back. So now let's say, instead of assuming that a better managed corporate will grow by 3% additional, let's assume that it grows only at 2%. That also means we will have a 2.5 lakh kind of a number of Sensex. Now you can say that this inflation is wrong, real GDP is wrong. Why don't you adjust something there? Okay, now we'll make this as 8%. So what I'm trying to say is that a good country will grow, our India can grow up to $10 trillion in the next 10 years. Our Sensex, which is at 60,000 today, or 58,000 today, can pretty easily grow to 2,48,000 in the next 10 years, which is 4x the return. Roughly works out to, the CAGR works out to 14.5 to 15%. Did you get this point now? Any questions here? And I think we are at the end of the presentation. Any other thing to add, Mohit, or we are open to questions?
We are open to questions. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mohit. That was a good presentation. Yeah, we are open to questions. You may ask us questions on the budget or on the impact of that on the portfolio. Let me also check my other channels meanwhile. So I'm on YouTube. I have a channel. And I'm also on LinkedIn Live, so you can actually, and also on Twitter. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Okay, I see some questions. Education. Hey, Vignesh, thank you so much. Glad you liked it. So Geeta, curious to know the impact of the budget on the education sector. I think one of the points that that has come clearly out of the budget is a lot of focus on education and on healthcare. So government today has understood the fact, and okay, one thing which the government has understood very well is that this recovery post-COVID has not been like a V or a U-shaped recovery. It has been a K-shaped recovery. What do you mean by K is good companies which are able to survive this COVID have grown, while there are a lot of sectors, especially in the rural areas and especially in the semi-urban areas, that have got affected pretty badly. For example, retail. I know of a lot of retail stores that have got shut. A lot of single home theater screen guys have, not home theater, single screen theater guys have got shut. So on and so forth, right? The government has been cognizant of the fact and has been releasing good set of amounts, especially targeted at these sectors. Education is one of the biggest sectors that has got pretty badly affected. And with the recent, let's say recent budget announcement and some SOPs that are given, I think it is going to be beneficial for the education sector to survive, right? And I'm sure once these COVID things settle, then there'll also be a lot more focus and a lot more budgets to be declared for education sector. Okay, wonderful. Look, good to know that you are in education sector, Geeta. That's nice to know. The sector looks good. I think, for example, my son is a 7-year-old kid and he goes to first standard. And today there was a very clear information that you guys have to come to the school. Not you have the option of coming to the school, and it is between 8:30 to 3 o'clock, 3:30. So I think it is coming back in shape. So hopefully it will be good going forward.
And I guess irrespective of the government spending, which definitely needs to happen because education has to deepen, because I guess with education only the economy can evolve in next 15 to 20 years. So that is very important. But with respect to whatever changes which we are seeing in the economy today, with respect to the edtech space, now that has definitely boosted up the education sector in the country right now. So definitely there are positive signs, at least from a private sector point of view, wherein edtech is going to make it really big. So Byju's a few years back, no one would have known about it. No one would have known about a lot of places like Unacademy, Upgrad. But these edtech spaces have created a market which is which is very big in terms of reaching out to the deepest economies of the country. So I guess private sector has done its part very well right now.
So yeah, on the other hand, government has been doing a lot of capex, okay, capital expenditure, which now should lead to. So it's been concentrating a lot on the supply side, but then private, like for example, I will expand only when I see demand, right? Consistent demand, not just a pent-up demand. So a lot needs to be done on the demand side, and that should lead to private capex also over a period of time. Yes, RSP. I hear your thing. I mean, it is always quite disappointing to not get or expect something and not get that, whether it is taxes or money or income or anything. GST rationalization. I mean, I'm a big believer that my GST, the amount that I pay, also should come down. But I don't know whether it is really going to come down because these are things that are not in our hands really. At least in a lot of businesses, they can adjust it against their inputs. In my business, in the kind of business that I'm in, I can't even get those inputs and all that stuff. So literally, I'm paying 18% out of my pocket. It's a lot more painful. I understand, but how I'm thinking is, as I said, right, that these are indirect benefits which can or may lead to better prosperity, and that's the only way I keep a sane mind. Otherwise, yes, you are seething under anger. Many times saying, why should I pay 2-3 lakhs or 4 lakhs of GST and stuff like that every time, right? Yeah, so I can't comment on the GST rate, but I'm hoping once the buoyancy of the taxes settle, once you have a lot more stability in the earnings, there should be some rationality, but I don't think it's going to happen very soon. As someone who has no idea about economics or finance, I have a question. Last year, so many promises were a lot of things announced. However, I was seeing okay, Vignesh, I think you're talking about that 20 lakh crore announcement in 2020. If you actually see, even then, we were very clear. If you were to dissect, right, those things are very clear. It was not, it was more of an announcement of what was already announced. See, more and more, if you see, budget is becoming a non-event. A lot of things are already in place. A lot of information is already in place. So one needs to know that for for the government to do certain thing, they don't really need to wait till budget. They can come in between and do GST rationalization or tax cut may not be, but a lot of other things, or announcing, for example, that $10 billion semiconductor budget announcement was much before the budget itself. So maybe you will get some more newses on how things will pan out for common man. But I don't think tax cut is going to happen. But if you could be a little more specific on what's on your mind when it comes to announcement. I think most of the announcement were what was announced earlier itself. So it was more of a summation of all that. Oh yes, I mean, pandemic or not, RSP, money going out of my pocket is never good. I always hate to pay anything that is mine. But the only thing is entitlement should go. How I know yesterday also I was going through a lot of LinkedIn posts. People said middleman is crushed and all that stuff. I think it's too much of a statement, to be honest, right? Your incomes are going up, and if you say I don't want to pay taxes, that is also not right. So my point is that let's assume that we are all contributing to the growth of the country, and hopefully we get recognized for it. Yeah, GST is high, maybe high for you, maybe high for me, but for someone it is okay. So let's look at it that way and get over with it. That's the only answer I can think of. It may be a little philosophical, but that's the only answer I'm thinking of. I think a lot of off-budget items, a lot of indirect tax items will be very beneficial to people like us. I think this budget, there are a few things on the demand side that is not answered, but on the supply side has been great. I think this PLI scheme, the China Plus One scheme, may turn out to be a game changer, and India's already targeting to export. We are already exporting the highest ever, and we are already targeting a 3x export in the next 5 years. Right, a lot of good things are falling in place. So don't get bogged down by these small news that keep coming in. Don't get bogged down by the market fall. It'll come, it'll fall, it'll go up. Only thing I want you to believe is that even if you invest today at 60,000 levels, right, and if you have a long-term time frame, I showed you the calculation on how this can have a positive impact on your portfolio in the next 10 years to come, in the next 5-7 years to come. And that is all that you need. Don't fall for this trading. Don't look at people coming and telling you that market will fall tomorrow, budget is bad, UP election, BJP will lose. Of course they can lose. What's the big deal, right? The whole point is, if the budget, now that the budget is set, the growth is set, let's look at long term and align our thoughts towards it, right? Venkatesh. So agriculture, farm bill, I don't want to talk about it. No, agriculture people, what I saw was the subsidies on the fertilizers have come down. There have been a lot of hue and cry over it, but popularly, many of them would have expected that the government will give a lot more subsidy, given that the fact that there are a lot of elections lined up. But surprisingly, they didn't do it. They've been very sane in doing the right development mindset in this budget. So one way it is happy. We are all happy that they are a little more prudent in spending our money, our tax money. But yes, I think agriculture income, I think in the next few days, few announcements should come on the agriculture side is what I think may happen going forward. Hey, one more thing, guys. We are launching something called Market Moguls, where I'll be talking live about 6 different topics on the art of wealth creation starting this Friday. So I would request you to join that. And it's a 6-session, six-part presentation where I talk to you about how really you can create wealth. So I would request you to join and click the follow button so that you don't miss out on these updates that whenever I go live, you will get. Any other questions? Because it's called Market Moguls. Maybe you can search for it and click on the RSVP. It is from Friday, every Friday. So a lot of efforts have been put into get the content for it. So I would request as many people as possible to come and join the presentation. Any other questions? Yes, thank you, Rajesh. Glad you liked it. Venkatesh, yes, glad you liked it. Mohit, any closing remarks before we close it out?
Just about that, with respect to whatever the budget is about, however, it's like from a very long-term point of view, and it should ideally reflect the same in your investment profile also. It's important that you stay invested for a longer period of time to get that specific return kind of a thing. It's not like a budget which will give you any return from a 6 to 1 year kind of a horizon. So it's important that you stay focused with respect to your investing and do such wise investment whenever it comes to cryptocurrency also.
Yeah, so Money Mughals, guys, thanks Mohit. I think Mohit has very concisely and crisply presented the budgets. I hope we answered your questions. Watch out for Money Mughals. You will learn the art of wealth creation and some interesting, very important announcements coming our way from on Friday. So I would look forward to seeing you all, and feel free to contact me offline and on Mohit also. He's on LinkedIn. Please feel free to contact him. Good luck to you guys, and looking forward to seeing you day after tomorrow. See you guys.
Thank
Bye,
you so
Mohit.
much, guys. Bye.